If we hadn't jumped on the Taylor Swift era trend when we did, like we made over $100,000 from that one sweatshirt last year alone. So like that was life-changing for us. Welcome to Life Unleashed,
the podcast all about creating the best life for you and your furry best friend.
If you're a dog mom on the go, juggling life, work, and the endless joys of being a dog parent, then you're in the right place. I'm Dani.
And I'm Nick.
And together with the incredible dog mom community from Tails Up Pup, we're here to share advice, stories, and the obsession we have over the love for our dogs.
Get ready to laugh, learn, and lean on each other because life with your dog just got even more awesome.
This topic comes in as a submission from a listener.
Ooh, this is a submission? Okay.
A submission. How keeping up with trends helps your small business, I guess. Like, we're just trends in general.
I feel like there's a lot of different ways that you could take that.
Well,
because you have like kind of pop culture trends, you have larger, trends that are larger overall kind of in the marketplace, that type of stuff.
And I've also tried to start some of my own trends. So
Danielle definitely wants to be a trendsetter sometimes.
One of my favorite ideas that did not really take off was, what was it called? It was the name of the series. Roasting people's dogs' names. And I would share the crazy names on bandanas. People did find this entertaining, but not as much as like I thought that they would.
Yeah, I mean, it is tough, like, when you have something, you're like, this is such a good idea, this could be a thing, I haven't seen anyone else do this, and then it has, like, a meh response. I
still am fully convinced that someone placed an order for a curse word because of that series, because they wanted to be featured. So, like, there's no way you call your dog that.
Maybe they do.
But overall, I mean, the submission of this topic made me like go all the way back to really like 2020, because that's when we were like in most of our trend era. And like Ensley and I would do TikTok dances and do funny skits, but like a lot of dances. And we would have people ask, like, you're a business, why are you doing dances? And so there's a lot of different tactics and thoughts on why you post things, why you do things, and how you're going to obtain new people who want to follow you, enjoy your content, and buy your products. Because at the end of the day, we have to make money. That's why we're here. We got to pay the bills.
Yep.
So that is the end goal. And so to get there, how are you going to get there? So sometimes for us, it was doing these dances. Now, you have to think about the journey of this person who's coming across your content. And really, it's, okay, if they see this and they enjoy it and they follow you, would they become a potential customer? The more people who see your videos or photos, the more people you'll get to follow you, and the more, hopefully, people you get to buy your product. Now, you have to have a good product. You have to have new stuff, all that kind of stuff. But overall, the more eyeballs, the better. And so for that, really, the more content you put out there, no matter what, like, it has to be good content. Like, it can't just be trash. But the more videos and photos you put out there, the more people are going to see it. And then the trickle effect happens.
Right.
So in the past, when we had more employees, my full-time job at one point was the content. That's strictly all I did. I didn't personalize bandanas. I didn't ship orders. I was the filmer. I was the idea generator and the filmer. And so we created a ton of videos. And at that time, it really was the best move for us, because that was during the pandemic when everyone was at home. They were on their phones. They were watching all this content, and people were really looking for reasons to smile and have joy in their life. And we were able to provide that. And I do think 100% that was the best thing for us. We definitely do a lot less of it now because we have less employees, and people just use social media less now than they did.
And it takes a lot of time to create content. I feel like when we're talking about content, there's really 3 different buckets you can think of content. You can think of educational content, you can think of entertainment content, and you can think of like promotional content. And I'd say trends almost always fall in I would probably entertainment. You can try to make it educational, but almost always it's just the entertainment content side.
If you make a piece of content saying, here's my product, you should buy it, almost always does pretty bad.
Yeah, that's like straight promotional.
People don't really enjoy watching that. People don't want to be sold to in that way. But if you can come up with an educational or an entertaining way to basically do the same thing, but in a different way, then people are much more likely to be perceptive to.
Yeah, and I mean, think about your own self. Like when you consume content, you don't really want to be sold to, even if it's the best product in the world and you need that product. It's better if you come across it in like a more like authentic, fun way than just to like, oh, cut and dry. Here's my thing. Do you want to buy it? Also,
controversy helps a lot in getting more views, getting more people to buy your things, and to, even if they are bashing you, obviously there's definitely a line that you don't want to cross.
Danielle loves to walk the controversy line. Like, even like the roasting of the dog names. I would say some people would think that can be controversial. Like,
I think one of the most like helpful videos was about people bashing the price of our bandana. And then like all these people were like, I would never pay $20 for a bandana. But the amount of people who did come and pay $20 for a bandana because of that video just proved that, there are people.
There are people out there that would do that.
Overall, though, I feel like you have to pick the trends that reflect a little bit of who you are or what you have to offer. Like,
yeah, so how do you go about identifying trends, and then how do you go about picking the ones that you're going to end up wanting to do?
Well, you always are like, you spend so much time scrolling on social media. I'm like, I'm working. Like, I'm idea generating, learning what other people are doing, seeing what is working well out there, and then trying to find ways that we can do that for ourselves. So every time I'm scrolling on TikTok or Instagram, I really am working.
Sometimes.
No, almost.
No, you have people that you follow that you're just doing for entertainment. There's
a few.
There is a few,
but not many.
Most of the time, you're trying to take all the stuff that you're seeing out there, and trying to figure out. So, I guess the first part of the process is like you have to go out there and kind of see what's working in the marketplace. That's really what you're saying.
Yeah, and like we haven't done a dancing TikTok in a long time, but I feel like dancing TikToks in general have really taken a back burner thing, because in the pandemic, like people who created these dances were also gearing towards anyone, and now a lot of the dances are way too technical. Like they're meant for dancers.
Oh yeah, like it's the barrier to entry for like a normal person to be able to pick that up is too hard.
But the number one thing about trends is that as soon as you can catch on, if you are an early adopter, you will succeed so much more. Like if you are one of the last people are like kind of over it and they're like, this isn't funny anymore.
So it gets saturated.
It gets very saturated. So that is definitely a hard thing, but I feel like we've been very good because I spend so much time on social media at learning the trends early on. And I'll come to Nick and I'll be like, oh my gosh, we have to film this or we have to do this. And a lot of times it works well for us.
So you are looking and searching on social media for the trends, hopefully getting there early. And then how do you decide which ones you end up wanting to do? Is it just ones that you like, or you think that like you could come up with an idea immediately for us, or what? Because obviously we're doing it for Tails Up Pup, a dog bandana and dog mom shop. Clearly the trend probably didn't come from someone like that. So you're having to figure out how you can make it our own.
Yeah, I have to figure a way to relate it to us or what we're doing. But a lot of times, like, we're also just like a guy and a girl who want to have fun. So like a lot of times we can do whatever we want.
We're just a guy and a girl that want to have fun.
But I feel like overall, if I enjoy watching it, then I want to make it. And if I don't enjoy watching it, then I'm like, nah, we'll pass on this one. There's plenty of trends that we don't do.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's been trends out there that like are very popular that you just like would never be interested in doing.
I think it's important to incorporate some type of trends in with your content if you are running a business that relies on social media, because you need to stay relevant, and it really depends on your target market and like what you're doing overall. But if you are like us, then I think it's important because you need to stay relevant and with the right crowd.
How much time do you think that you should spend trying to, what you said earlier, come up with your own trends?
Like starting a new one.
Either starting a new one, and it doesn't have to be a trend per se, but I would say something that is like you didn't get that idea from someone else.
I think it's important because people don't want to just see you copying people all the time. But trends, it's kind of like, that's really hard. I would say more coming up with your own series. So like for us, creating videos of cutting the bandanas. Like that's something that we always do, and people enjoy watching the process and we enjoy filming the process. So that's not a trend, and that's not something we're trying to get other people to do, but that's a series that we have. And I think that that's important. And also like on Simply Sweet Pea, sharing baby names that we're embroidering, like people like seeing those names, and that is a little bit more trendy, but overall it's like a series.
Yeah. But I do think that does tap into like a little bit more of an overarching trend, not like I feel like with trends, there's things that are like, really small trends, like this song with this dance per se, all the way down to like broad trends. And the broad trend would be people really like seeing behind the scenes stuff. Mm-hmm. People want to see that stuff. So that's where the cutting videos and, the making and that type of stuff comes in. And that can work for no matter what business you're in. If you are making anything, I think that can be successful for you. So that's like a broader trend that you can jump on.
I also think a trend in general is just shopping small. Like people want to support local businesses, small businesses. So like you could even just play on that. Also, I'm just literally thinking about this now, but I took this topic in social media, obviously, like that's all we've talked about, but like trends in the products that we have.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
like,
I was thinking that as well.
Oh, I was
that's
not.
In the beginning when I was kind of saying like these really broad trends, what I was really thinking about at that point was like, oh, wow, we're like in the dog world, there was a trend, I think, going more for personalized items, things that are like very, unique and different, not just something that you could buy at PetSmart or something.
If we hadn't jumped on the Taylor Swift era trend when we did, like we made over $100,000 from that one sweatshirt last year alone. So like that was life-changing for us. And that was jumping on a trend early on, and not only just jumping on the trend, but making it relevant and making it cute. So like we checked so many boxes in that item that really allowed us to thrive. And then we did it again now with the tortured dog mom department. Like you just, as soon as something new comes out that's like really hot, if you can adopt and create something, and that's also a big benefit to having handmade in-house products. Like if we were outsourcing that to a company in China and having to like buy 1,000 and having ship like 2 months, like you wouldn't have been able to adopt the trend as fast.
Well, something that's like, I guess, goes along with that is you really have to be willing to test a lot of stuff with trends. There's been plenty of things that we've probably done over the years that we thought could be a thing. You made one of them and tried it and it didn't go anywhere, and we kind of just forgot about it and moved on. So to be able to be successful with trends, you have to be very willing to experiment and do a quick turnaround time, put it out there and just see what happens. And if it takes off, great. If not, to the next trend.
Yeah.
So now that we're kind of like on the topic of maybe more overarching trends, not just social media trends, do you see any trends in the dog world or anything that is exciting right now that you want to put out here first?
No, because like we would already be on it. I feel like I never am one to like sit here and think about it. I'm just like, let's just do it and then we can see if it works. So I don't really have anything in my head, but what I'm thinking about is even just like, this isn't really trends, but like seasonal things, like always staying up with the current season and planning ahead. Like right now we're in full planning for fall. And even though it's because our baby's coming, like this time last year, we were about to have our photo shoot for fall too. So we are always planning this far ahead for fall. And I think it's important. But then like for us, because we are this handmade small business, we're planning far ahead so that like we've already just finished all of our new exclusive bandana patterns for fall. But if something trendy happened in 2 months, we would be able to come up and do it and add an extra thing. So like while it wasn't in our fall launch plan and whatever, we always have room to add something if we think that it will be beneficial to add.
One thing about trends that I'll say is the dark side of trends. This is something that you have to be very careful of. A lot of times trends do last. I mean, they can last years, I feel like. And a trend that we saw happening, at least for us, probably 2020, maybe 2019 is when it really started to be a thing, but we saw pajamas and wanting to take like family photos with your dog, matching bandanas, matching pajamas, this whole thing. We had 2 solid years in a row where that was a definitely an established trend and a growing trend. And so we said, okay, well, we definitely think that trend is going to continue. And so because pajamas are something that, we're not literally sewing the pajamas, we had to buy those from a supplier. We bought a lot more for that third year. And guess what? The trend didn't stop, but it shifted, and people were not buying the pajamas from us. They were buying them from like the Target, Walmart, the cheapest places they could get them. And we ended up getting stuck with a lot of extra pajamas just because the trend slightly shifted. And so that's another good example of, you can have these. And I feel like once the big box retailers catch on to these trends, they make it very hard to compete with them because they will beat you at the price and all the different stuff.
Another life lesson that we learned in that was to not always listen to your customers, because the number one thing that we were getting from them is that they wanted the matching top.
Yeah, they wanted a full pajama set, which of course is going to be more expensive than just the pants.
Exactly. So that was the problem, is that now they no longer wanted to pay the price tag for the 2 pieces. They liked the price of the 1 piece of just the bottoms, but they wanted the top and they're for free, and that's just not how it works. So I would say, just make educated, like take into consideration what the people are asking, but then also you have to use what like, were people really going to buy pajamas that were $50?
And there's been plenty of other things in our course of business where we've had polls that we've put out there, and people will say one thing, and then when we launch a thing, like very few people will buy it. And it's just like, what the heck? 500 of you answered yes to this question, and like 20 bought it. What the heck?
Yeah.
So that's a very weird thing. I think with the pajamas too, you just have to know like little risk to take versus like, for us, we and it felt at the time, I still think that wasn't the stupidest decision ever.
You always say that was your worst decision
in hindsight, but all the numbers made sense. It's not like we bought, 100 times more. I think we bought the same amount that we had sold the previous year, and we'd had massive growth. And we
still have them now.
Yeah, so it's just, it is
for
very
like
weird.
$5.
The other thing that was so weird, the other weird thing about that is not only was the pajama, everything was better. We did the best work. We took the best photos, created the best content. We went and sourced like the cutest, best quality, like for the price, top and bottom pajamas out there. Like everything was like, when we had our Christmas photo shoot, I was like, this is going to sell so well, because we think the year before our photo shoot was not that great. We did everything better for that third year, and it just flopped comparatively.
I would also say, just like on the topic of trends, just not wasting money to be trendy. Like, you have to make the best decisions for you too. And even like with that, I'm just thinking like you're comparing our photo shoots, and like I would say a trend is to have high quality, nice looking photos. And you have to do that. And that's always like when people are coming to me, like, my bandana shop has only got 1 sale this year. Like, what am I doing wrong? And when I look, a lot of times their pictures are dark and fuzzy. And like, maybe you need to like up your photography, like hire someone or do something else. But at the same time, like, don't go to the extreme and spend so much money that it doesn't make sense, especially if your products don't have a long shelf life. Because like when we were doing the boutique clothing, we would pay this photographer so much money for these products to sell out so fast, and it wasn't worth the price tag. So you have to find like a middle ground.
Yeah, it's very easy to see what other people are doing out there and to want to, particularly bigger brands and things like that, and to say, well, if I want to be successful like them, I got to do the things that they're doing. And in some cases that could be true, but in other cases that could be a trap.
You can also find trends in life to adopt to. Like, if right now, like going to the farmer's market became a big trend, like, how would we relate that to our business? Oh, like, we're going to take our dog to the farmer's market and we're going to show people that we're doing that and they can do that too. Or like, maybe they should get our farmer's market dog bandana. And like, I feel like you can relate even basic trends like that back to your business in different ways.
But an overarching trend, kind of circling a little bit back to what I was saying earlier, I feel like we're moving into the trend, at least in our lives, and I know other customers are having this too, of where our family's growing, and we are going to have a kid with our fur babies, and it's like we don't want our dogs to, feel left out, but we're going to be even busier as parents and all the stuff that's going to come along with that, and so we're kind of evolving our business to, fit in with that new little bit of a trend of the dog mom that really loves their dogs, but now they're having a baby.
I actually saw someone post the other day, felt like it was targeted at us. They were like, don't worry, this dog account is not going to ever change to a baby account. And I did take it as a jab at us, and who knows if it was directed at us or not. But I feel like overall, whether you have a kid or not, whether you ever want to have kids or not, you would still find joy in our page, because we're showing just like the joys of life. And so we're still showing our dogs. Our dogs are still the center of our life in addition to this kid. I know our kid is not here yet, so it's a little bit different. But overall, we're showing how you can do life with both. And I think a lot of times people's pages do completely shift. I even follow some of these dog influencers who now literally their whole entire page is the baby. And these dogs are getting forgotten, but we're not going to, and we're going to show how you can do life with everything.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what? The other thing is there's no right or wrong way to do trends. Mm-hmm. You can take a, very popular trend and totally change it up and make it totally unique to you, to where it's not even really remotely the same type of trend. And then you can change all the way down to like these broad trends, whatever. You can shift however you think it's good for you. Like, we're changing more to, baby and dogs. We're not going to try to show only baby or only dogs. It's how our life is.
One thing I'm thinking about is what happened to the TikTok ban? Is that still happening?
Yeah, I mean, as with anything through like Congress and stuff, it takes a long time.
Because if TikTok is gone, I don't know how trends will shift with that too, because that's where a lot of trends come from, I feel like. Way more than Instagram. Also, just like not letting trends become your whole identity, because they come and go so fast. Even like, for example, Stanley, I feel like they blew up so fast, and then they thrived for like 3 years, but then even now, like, they've fallen off way more. And so like you have to learn how to adapt. And like Stanley had been around forever, so it's not like they were a brand new company. They adapted, they made themselves a trend, but then also like now what are they going to do to adapt now that it's fizzling out?
I feel like, yeah, you don't want your DNA to be all trends, and I don't think that Stanley's is. It's like they've been around for 100 years, I think, and they just had a very good time where they hit the market right, and a lot of people, made Stanley's become a trend, but I don't think they got away from their, core philosophy as a company. They used it to their benefit and didn't, let it throw them off.
Also, a very easy trend, which turned into a lifelong product that we did not adapt to, were baby bandana bibs, which like was a top thing right when they like basically pretty quickly after we started our business. They became pretty big in the baby world, and everyone's asking us like, oh, are you going to make these? Are you going to make these? And obviously we have not. I'm not saying that we never would, but it is a complete, it's hard for like an outsider to see, because they're like, oh, you make bandanas, make a bandana bib. But it is a completely different product that we would have to have different templates, different sewing. Most of them need snaps. And so like now it is a completely different product, even though it looks similar, that we were going to have to make. And we don't have enough time in the day to make all these things. So that ultimately is why we did not go into that trend. And who knows, we could be millionaires if we would do that. We could not. Like, maybe you just never know how things are going to play out, but you do have to pick and choose how much time you have, how much money you have to go into these trends and pick what is best for you.
Yeah, it is definitely like an opportunity cost thing. Like, there's so many trends out there, and there's probably way more trends that even like would work for you than you have time to do. So you have to pick. And will you be wrong sometimes? Absolutely. Are there things that, like Dani said, could we have been super successful with the baby bibs? Very possibly. But at the same time, if you run after that and it doesn't work and you left something that was working, that's also... Business is about experimenting. You have to experiment with the trends, try them. But I feel like in a lot of people, it gets overhyped. It's like, trends are the only way to grow, the only way to do things. And I think they should be part of it, but it's not the only way.
Yeah.
And really, your core community cares less about the trends. Trends are more for like getting, I think, new people to see you and follow you versus like, your current community might like it, but they're here for more of the deep content.
This is all to say that if your target market is like an older generation, then trends like really, I feel like, don't relate to them. This is for people like us who are younger, into trends, into watching that type of stuff. But overall, I hope this was educating, entertaining to listen to our point of view as a company who has thrived from trends and also learned from trends. And I mean, like I said, we had our life changed last year from creating a trendy item all the way to, through the pandemic, thriving with dancing on TikTok that we never thought we would do. And it's
even just the overarching trend of like dog bandanas and all of that has become a lot bigger over the last 5 or 6 years. So we've been riding that trend as well.
And I actually, good point, because that was like the number one thing when we started is that the mostly older people were like, what are you going to do when dog bandanas aren't a thing? And first of all, it's hard for us to imagine a life without that because once you see a dog with it, it's like, why would you ever not? But if that were the case, if dog bandanas have vanished from the world and people hated them all of a sudden, we have so much knowledge and skill set that we can adapt to make something different or start a new business or who knows. Like, you can't predict what the future is going to be, but you can use what you have and figure it out when you go. So that's what I have to say.
Very well said. I think at the end of the day, with trends, with your business, you have to be willing to try things and adapt as things don't work. Run with the things that do. That's the other big thing about trends is like when you see the wave, sometimes you got to jump on it as early as you can and ride it until it's gone.
And sometimes it crashes.
Thank you
so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.